February 1959. A snow-covered tent is found, slashed open from the inside. Bootprints lead into the darkness. Barefoot, bodies begin to appear. Some with shattered ribs, one missing her tongue. No survivors, no answers. This is the story of the Dyatlov Pass. Chapter 1. The expedition begins. In the winter of 1959, 10 young students from the Ural Polytechnic Institute in Sverdlovsk prepared for an ambitious expedition. They were seasoned hikers, experienced in navigating the harsh Soviet wilderness. Their goal was to earn their Grade 3 hiking certification, the highest level in the Soviet system, by completing a 300-kilometer trek through the frozen peaks of the Ural Mountains. The group was led by Igor Dyatlov, a 23-year-old radio engineering student. Friends described him as intelligent, methodical, and well-liked, a natural leader. On January 23, 1959, the group gathered in Sverdlovsk to begin their journey. Their first leg took them by train to Ivdel, a small industrial town near the edge of the wilderness. From there, they traveled by truck to the remote village of Vijay, the last inhabited settlement before the mountains. In their diaries, the students wrote cheerfully of the journey so far. The mood is excellent, plenty of laughter. They photographed each other, smiling, joking, unaware of what lay ahead. Yuri Yudin, who suffered from chronic illness, reluctantly turned back near Vijay due to severe back pain, a decision that would ultimately save his life. On January 27th, the remaining 9 skied deeper into the Ural Mountains. They followed the Auspia River, moving steadily through dense forest and rising terrain. The weather was harsh, snowstorms, biting wind, temperatures plummeting below -30 degrees Celsius. Yet the group remained in high spirits, writing in journals, taking photographs, and singing songs around campfires. They aimed to cross a mountain pass near Kolatsiakl, known to the local Mansi people as the Mountain of the Dead. Legends spoke of the region as cursed, though the students were skeptics, grounded in Soviet science. On February 1st, they pitched their tent on the exposed slope of Kolatsiakl, a curious choice, likely due to deteriorating weather and fading daylight. Their last diary entry read simply, "We now have the task of making a snow shelter tomorrow." That night, something happened, something no one expected, something that would remain a mystery for decades to come. Chapter 2. The Search and Discovery. When the group failed to return to Sverdlovsk on the expected date, concern quickly spread among friends and family. At first, officials were slow to act. Such delays were common on these difficult expeditions. But as the days passed, worry turned to alarm. On February 20th, nearly 3 weeks after the hikers' departure, a formal search operation was launched. Volunteer students from the Ural Polytechnic Institute joined the effort, alongside militia units, Soviet soldiers, and local Mansi hunters. Blizzards swept through the mountains. Temperatures plunged below -30 degrees. The search was grueling. Progress was slow. On February 26th, a breakthrough. One of the search teams spotted a collapsed tent on the slope of Kolatsiakl. As they approached, what they found defied explanation. The tent was half buried in snow, its fabric slashed from the inside. Inside, belongings were scattered: boots, jackets, food, cameras, even a bottle of vodka. Untouched, 9 sets of boots remained inside. But there were only 8 or 9 sets of footprints leading away from the tent, barefoot or in socks. down the slope toward a line of forest nearly a mile away. There were no signs of a struggle, no blood, no indication of attack, and the tracks were strange. They showed a calm, orderly descent at first, as if the group had walked, not run, into the night. Over the following days, searchers moved into the forest. At the edge of the trees, beneath a large cedar, they found the first grim evidence. The bodies of Yuri Doroshenko and Georgy Krivonishenko, barefoot, clad only in underwear, lay beneath the tree. Nearby, remnants of a small fire suggested a desperate attempt to survive. The cedar branches above were broken as high as 5 meters, perhaps from someone climbing to look for the tent or to escape something. Between the cedar and the tent, searchers soon found 3 more bodies, those of Igor Dyatlov, Zinaida Kolmogorova, and Rustem Slobodin, spaced at intervals in the snow. It appeared they had tried to return to the tent, but collapsed in the cold along the way. And this is where things go from strange to terrifying. As the spring thaw began in May, search teams resumed their search in deeper snowdrifts and ravines. Nearly 2 months after the first discovery, the remaining 4 bodies were found. Lyudmila Dubinina, Alexander Kolevatov, Semyon Zolotaryov, and Nikolai Thibault were located in a ravine buried beneath 4 meters of snow. Their injuries were severe. Lyudmila and Semyon had broken ribs. Nikolai had a crushed skull. Lyudmila was missing her tongue and parts of her lips and eyes. Strangely, some of the clothing recovered from these bodies showed traces of radioactive contamination. No official explanation was offered. The discovery of these final bodies deepened the mystery. How had experienced hikers fled the tent into sub-zero darkness? Why had some died of exposure while others suffered massive internal injuries without external wounds? Why were their clothes radioactive? The more searchers uncovered, the more question remained. And from the cold snows of Kolatsiakl, the Dyatlov Pass mystery began to echo far beyond the Urals. Chapter 3: Theories and Mystery. The scene discovered on Kolatsiakl left investigators with far more questions than answers. The Dyatlov group were experienced hikers, disciplined, methodical, and yet their camp had been abandoned in apparent panic in the dead of night, in temperatures of minus 30 degrees. What could drive such a team from their shelter barefoot, without proper clothing, into certain death? Over the decades, countless theories have been proposed, some grounded in science, others drifting into speculation and legend. One of the earliest explanations was avalanche. Perhaps a sudden slab of snow collapsed onto the tent, forcing the group to escape in seconds. Yet, investigators at the time noted no clear signs of an avalanche at the site. The slope angle was shallow. The tent remained partially standing. Another theory centers on katabatic winds, sudden, powerful gusts of freezing air, capable of overwhelming even skilled hikers. A burst of such wind may have struck the camp, filling the tent with snow or deafening noise, triggering the group to flee. Then there is the question of infrasound. Some researchers believe that specific wind patterns around the pass could have created low-frequency sound waves, below the threshold of human hearing, yet capable of inducing intense anxiety, nausea, even irrational fear. In such a state, the hikers may have fled, without understanding why, yet the mystery deepens with the discovery of radiation. Several pieces of the hikers' clothing were found to be contaminated with radioactive traces. No official explanation was ever given for this anomaly. Some suggest the contamination was coincidental, the result of contact with industrial materials. Others believe it points to something darker, secret Soviet weapons testing in the area, perhaps exposure to experimental devices. Then there are the more outlandish theories. A Mansi attack, though often mentioned, is highly unlikely. The local Mansi people were peaceful, had no motive, and no evidence of human conflict was found. Some propose encounters with Yetis or other unknown creatures or extraterrestrial forces. In recent years, the most accepted theories point to a convergence of natural events, environmental factors, weather, psychological stress, combining to create a perfect storm of disaster. And yet, crucial details remain unexplained. Why the severe internal injuries in some victims, more akin to a car crash than a fall? Why was one hiker's tongue missing? Why the radioactive traces? And why such clear signs of panic in such an experienced group? To this day, the Dyatlov Pass incident remains unsolved, a chilling testament to the power of nature, the limits of human understanding, and the haunting pull of unanswered question. Chapter 4: Legacy of a Mystery. More than 6 decades have passed since that cold February night on the slopes of Kholat Syakhl. Yet the mystery of the Dyatlov Pass incident continues to haunt the world's imagination. The official Soviet investigation closed the case in May 1959 with the vague conclusion: the deaths were caused by an unknown compelling force. No one was charged. No definitive cause was ever recorded. In the years that followed, the story spread quietly within the Soviet Union. For many years, the files remained classified. The families of the victims left without answers. But with the fall of the Soviet Union in the 1990s, new details emerged. Researchers gained access to long-hidden archives. Amateur investigators began piecing together the story. And soon, the Dyatlov Pass incident became a global fascination. Today, the site of the tragedy is a place of pilgrimage. Each year, hikers, researchers, and curious travelers journey to the pass, to stand where the 9 young adventurers once camped beneath the stars. In Yekaterinburg, the Dyatlov Foundation preserves the memory of the group, collecting documents, photographs, and testimonies. The foundation continues to advocate for deeper investigation, for a true accounting of what happened on that mountain. For the families of the victims, the loss is still deeply felt. Children lost their parents. Siblings grew up with empty chairs at the table. Decades later, some relatives still visit the graves, seeking peace where no answers have come. In popular culture, the Dyatlov Pass incident has become a symbol of the unexplained. It has inspired books, films, television series, each reinterpreting the mystery through a different lens. Yet beneath the speculation and the theories, a simple truth remains. 9 young people set out on an adventure. They were bright, determined, full of life. They faced something they could not overcome. And for all our modern science, all our forensic tools, the full story of that night still eludes us. Recent years have seen new expeditions to the pass, psychological studies, forensic re-examination of the injuries. Some experts believe we are closer than ever to understanding the events of February 1st, 1959. But others argue that too much time has passed, that nature has erased the final clues, and perhaps that is what gives this story its enduring power. It is not just a cold case, it is a human story, of courage, of tragedy, of mystery. A story of 9 young lives, frozen in time. And as long as questions remain, as long as the wind stirs the snow on Kholat Syakhl, the world will keep searching for answers. And there you have it, guys. A story that still doesn't sit right, no matter how many times I look at it. What do you think really happened out there? Leave me a comment below. And if you want more stories like this, consider subscribing. It helps more than you think. Until then, stay curious.